Hello, my name is John, and today on Mono Story we're going to be talking about the new manga series, Daemons of the Shadow Realm. So let's get into it and find out what it's all about. The story is about a brother and a sister who are twins. They're known as Yuru and Asa respectively, and they are searching for their parents. They were also given a special gifted ability known as Kai or Fu, or in better terms known as break and release. And during their time of trying to discover this new ability and what its powers are, everyone else is trying to obtain these powers. Now, the beautiful thing about this story, Daemons of the Shadow Realm, is that it is written by the author of Full Metal Alchemist, Hiromu Arakawa. And so, because of this, the characters generally look very similar, though they are not the same. So, Yuru looks like Edward Elric, and there's another character, Misasagi, who looks like Scar. And if you go through more and more of the characters, you will notice more and more similarities to Full Metal Alchemist. Now, in terms of the abilities in Daemons of the Shadow Realm, these things known as daemons are spirit-like entities that follow orders. There is always two, and they have a similar feel to what a stand is from JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, making them even more unique in the story. However, they are not connected by spirit, but rather blood, as they are manifested from a artifact or item, and so the user will use their blood to make a connection to the artifact. Not only can these daemons have special abilities, but they can also be taken from one user to another. And in addition, if the daemon is harmed or injured, this does not affect the user. Therefore, the fights are able to be more chaotic. In terms of the art in the story, it is just Full Metal Alchemist. So therefore, it is absolutely spectacular, easy to understand, and with these daemons, it makes the fights and anything else around them more unique. It is pretty much like JoJo meets Full Metal Alchemist in one story. There is nothing quite like it, in my opinion, at this current moment in the manga anime space. The characters of this story are so detailed and beautifully written with multiple layers to them. Now, we already know that if we take a Full Metal Alchemist as a measurement for how characters are, we know that Full Metal Alchemist has some of the mostly beautifully written characters, and this also is in Daemons of the Shadow Realm. And an example of this is when we meet a character named Akio, and originally this character, Akio, is a very kind character who is working with Yuru and Asa and their group. However, we come to find out he's a traitor and he's actually trying to harm Asa. And we learn that the reason for this is because he wants to feel, because his whole entire life he hasn't really felt anything in terms of fighting because he's always been strong, and he wanted to have some form of challenge. And it was very interesting sort of aspect because we didn't see that not only coming, but it showed us that these characters have other things going on that we are not knowing of yet, or we will find out throughout the story. I mean, there's lots more intrigue, ideas, and lots more different details that are going to come out as we go through the story. Also, in that fight, he lost his arm. It got straight ripped off, which I'm telling you was absolutely the most coolest thing I've ever seen. Very rare to see fights just go straight bam, taking limbs off people, including characters that are potentially going to be in the story for a long period of time. However, he is not my favorite character. My favorite character is known as Roe Tadera. Now, this guy has what seems to be a daemon. However, we're not sure what his daemon really is yet. But he just rocks up in this fight between these two other characters, and he's like, "Oh, hey, how you going?" And then bam, just comes in there and just rips up the place. And this other guy with his daemon can't even stop him. The funny thing is, this guy, Roe Tadera, actually has a fascination and love for a specific manga character in the story. So it creates this sort of juxtaposition complexity where he's like this kind, sweet person, but then when he goes back to his main, where he's this aggressive fighting individual who's like a machine. It's so interesting as a character, and you can't find that very much these days in modern anime or manga. It's just so unique. Now, the world is a very fascinating world because it's set in modern times, but to Yuru, it is actually the lower world, and in reality, he grew up on a mountain, and in this mountain, it feels like we're in the past, back in, let's say, for Japan, the Edo period around that time. But in reality, we're in 2024, 2025, basically when the story has set modern time to be. And it's very interesting because we are trying to learn about our world through the eyes of Yuru. So basic things like using a credit card to him is very new. Other things like the Japanese medical system and how you need to use a card, that is explained in the story to him because he's unaware of how you would get medical treatment at a hospital. And all these other things are very new. Things like smartphones and cars, they are all to him new. So we're seeing it fresh through his eyes rather than our eyes where we've already seen this throughout our whole entire existence, making the world feel fresh and vibrant. Now, I do have a few problems with this story. They're very small, but they still are a bit frustrating to deal with. So the first one for me is when they address characters. They don't address them by their name. They address them by family when they are explaining. So this character's family, that character's family, and these families are having two arguments where we get very bogged down in the family politics, and it isn't a problem once you understand all the people in the family, or you understand how the families work outside of using the daemon abilities and all that. It's just families fighting with each other or colluding with each other, and it's very difficult early on because you are unsure who's a part of what family. So you're getting this family about this character, and this character's in this family, and that character's in this family, and this family doesn't like that family, and it can get very, very confusing. So that is a problem, but once you figure out the different characters and who their families are, it becomes a lot more easy and a lot more interesting as a story. But early on, you will struggle with that. And that is my thoughts on Daemons of the Shadow Realm. And let me tell you, this story is only just beginning. There is so much I haven't even covered in this introduction. This is very basic. I will be obviously doing a full review once the series has been completed. Until then, would I recommend you read this story? 100%. I would recommend you read this story. If you like JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, this is for you. If you like Fullmetal Alchemist, this is for you. If you like Shonen, this is for you. And if you're thinking it's only those three things, there's comedy, there's lots of world building, and there is just so much more. But that is my opinion. I want to know what your opinion is on Daemons of the Shadow Realm, so please write them down in the comment section below. If you haven't already liked, subscribed, and pressed the bell button, please do so. And if you want to continue on watching, please click another video. If not, until next time, my name is John from Mono Story, and I will see you on another Mono Story.